Okay, we're starting chapter 6 on the skeletal system, and we're going to give our introduction here, talk about functions of the skeletal system, the structures of bone tissues, and cells in bone. So, functions. Skeletal system provides support and protection for other organs. Uh, we are have 206 or 208 bones, depending on how you count, uh, that form our arms, legs, and backbones and protect our most delicate organs like the brain, the heart, the lungs. Uh, the bones also provide for the shape of the joints, which determines the type of movements possible. The skeletal system also stores calcium, phosphate, and fats, and is involved in the homeostasis of calcium balance and in the production of blood cells. So it has some important functions that way. The bone tissues, the primary tissues that make up the core of the skeletal system, are compact bone and spongy bone. Compact bone is a dense form of bone that forms the outer layers, which you can see here in this cross section. And then spongy bone is a interbracing network or scaffolding of uh, less dense bone that forms much of the underlying structure of bones. I should point out that bones are organs, and so compact bone and spongy bone are only two of the tissues there. There are lots of other tissues. Bones have an extensive amount of fibrous connective tissue, of membranes covering them. They contain adipose tissue. They have cartilages, both hyaline and fibrous cartilage. They are extremely vascular, which means they have lots of blood vessels, and they have nerves. But the main tissues are this compact bone and spongy bone. Okay, the uh, bone tissues can be classified relative to the amount of matrix to space. Cancellous or spongy bone has lots of internal spaces made up of what are called trabeculae, which are like plates of bone that form a kind of like a internal scaffolding. And then the space in those plates is usually either filled by red or yellow bone marrow. Then compact bone is very dense with very few spaces. It does have blood vessels going through it, but it has no large amounts of internal spaces. Okay, the cells, bone is a connective tissue, and so it does contain cells. The cells mostly derive from stem cells that are referred to as osteogenic cells. And some of those cells will become osteoblasts, which will make a lot of matrix. And osteoblasts, after they become less active when they are surrounded by matrix, they will enter a kind of a resting stage where they will be called osteocytes. And they can become active later if the matrix needs to be replaced. But then if matrix needs to be removed, we also can generate cells called osteoclasts. And these can actually remodel bone by removing old bone tissue. And so bone matrix is 35% organic matter, which is going to be collagen fibers mostly, and some additional proteoglycans, which are proteins that have sugars attached to them. And then most of it is a calcium phosphate called hydroxyapatite, which forms the solid portion, the weight-bearing portion, and gives it its strength against crushing. So the two types of bone, uh, the compact bone is the one that we're probably most concerned with. The compact bone, the osteocytes are arranged around blood vessels in concentric rings. These rings are referred to as lamellae, and so they surround this, and the cells are in spaces called osteons that are around these rings. Uh, each osteon has blood vessels, and an osteon is an organized area around one of these blood vessels. It will be connected to these cells by little canals, and these connect the osteocytes to the blood vessels, and they bring those osteocytes tissues. The bone, lamellar bone, is very much laid down in these rings around this. The collagen fibers are all running in parallel directions. If bone is remodeled or reorganized to provide, after repair or to provide strength, it will have collagen fibers that are oriented in many different directions, and that's referred to as woven bone. Okay. Cancellous bones then are, or spongy bone. The lamellae are organized not so much around blood vessels, but into plate-like structures that are beams that are interconnected with other lamellae. And so you get this lattice-like structure with lots of empty space in between. This can provide a lot of strength in many different directions, but it uses less bone tissue, and so is less dense and less heavy.